Hey, good morning. It's Chuck here at Garden Spot Acres. Sue's making something in the kitchen, and I think it's gonna be delicious. Let's go back inside and see what she's making.
Well, today we're going to use some of our pumpkin butter to make a version of a pumpkin pie that you may not have seen before. All we need is 1 cup of our pumpkin butter, 3/4 of a cup, half and half, and 2 eggs. I have the eggs already beaten in here, ready to go. I'm going to add in the pumpkin butter and the cream, and that's all there is to it. Get all that goodness out of there. All right, want to give that a good stir. Everything needs to be thoroughly mixed together. This pumpkin pie is going to have a bit of a twist. All right, let me add the heavy cream. In it goes. Give that a good mix. All right, and we are ready. Here we go. Here's the twist. We are going to bake this pumpkin pie mixture right in the little pumpkin shell. We had several little pumpkins that we got out of our garden. So we're going to do a pumpkin pie like was done in Pilgrim days. All right, here we go. I have my oven preheating at 375 degrees. You can see I'm going to leave about 1/2 inch of that pie shell undone. Set that off to the side. We're going to top that with the pumpkin lid, and I have a second one ready to go. And again, I'm going to leave about 1/2 inch empty at the top of that pumpkin. All right, put on the lid. This is going to go into the oven, 375 degrees. I'd say it's going to take about 1 hour to 1.5 hours to bake. So I'm going to come back here in about 50 minutes and I'm going to check this to see how done the custard is. And then we'll move on to the final step. Well, the pumpkins are out of the oven temporarily. They are probably not done yet. I had them in a 375-degree oven for 55 minutes. Before I lift the lid on these little beauties, let me do a little recap. We cleaned out the seeds and the fiber from the mini pumpkins, and then I mixed up a cup of our homemade pumpkin butter, 3/4 of a cup of half and half, and 2 eggs. I poured that inside the pumpkins, put the lid on, and put them into the 375-degree oven. All right, here we go. Let's see what we have inside at this point. All right, let me give these a little shake. And you can see that this is still very liquidy. So they're going to go back into the oven, again at 375. I'm going to check them again in 30 minutes. And if they're not done at that point, then I'm going to be checking probably every 5 minutes after that until the custard is done. So back in the oven they go, and I'll see you in a little bit. 30 minutes have passed and I have the mini pumpkins out of the oven. The best way to check a custard type of filling like this is to use a smooth butter knife, and you just want to poke it down in there, and if it comes out clean, your custard is done. So that's it. We have our first twist on the pumpkin pie, baking that pumpkin pie filling right in a mini pumpkin shell. Can you imagine the surprise your family will have when you serve these for dessert one night? We're moving on to our second pumpkin pie with a twist. I have my ingredients ready to go. Got my pie crust in the pie pan already. You could make your own pie crust if you want. I tend to make a mess, and I find it much easier and just as good to buy the pie crusts that are in the refrigerator section rolled up, roll them out, and you're ready to go. We have 2 eggs already whipped. To that, I'm going to add 1 cup of our homemade pumpkin puree. And I'll give you a little challenge here. If you have never made your own pumpkin puree, try it, make your own, and buy a can of pumpkin puree and compare the two. I think you'll find that you'll never go back to a can of pumpkin again. Canned pumpkin kind of tastes like the can. So give it a try, follow our method to make the pumpkin puree, and you'll be good to go. All right, to this mixture I'm going to add 2/3 of a cup sugar. I'm going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. Add that right in, and also into the mix goes 1 1/3 cups of half and half. All right, I'm going to give that a good stir. I have my oven already preheated at 425 degrees. This pie will bake for 15 minutes at that high temperature. Excuse me. And then I'm going to reduce the temperature. Excuse me. This pie will bake at 425 degrees for 15 minutes. And then I'll reduce the temperature to 350, and it will bake at that temperature for another 45 minutes. And then the twist. After the pie is baked comes the twist. I'm going to keep you in suspense until that happens. All right, here we go. Pour this into the pie shell. I think I have more pie filling than I need, but here we go. Now it's all going in. All right, so I'm going to put this in the oven, and when it comes out, I'll be back to show you the twist. Well, as you can see, the pumpkin pie is out of the oven. Remember, we baked it at 425 degrees for 15 minutes, and then we reduced the temperature to 350 for another 45 minutes. While the pie is cooling for 20 minutes, I put some pecans in a pan and roasted them up in the oven for about 5 minutes. Now it's time to move on to the twist on this pumpkin pie. All right, I have here a cup of sour cream, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And I am simply going to mix those things together and spread this over top of the pie. My oven is still on at 350 degrees, and the pie is going to go back into the oven for another 10 minutes just to set this topping. When it comes out, we're going to top it with the toasted pecans, and I'm telling you, I cannot wait for this pie to be done and cooled enough for me to take a slice out of it. This is my favorite version of a pumpkin pie. All right, here we go. It seems like an odd mixture, doesn't it? Sour cream, lemon juice, brown sugar, and we're going to put it all in a pumpkin pie. I don't know. Sounded kind of weird the first time I made it, but I love it. All right, I'm going to go all the way to the edges there. Try to fill that all in. Oh, look at that. That looks yummy. All right, so as I said, back into the oven for 10 minutes. And when it comes out, we'll put on the finishing touch. This is the twist to my favorite pumpkin pie. Well, here we have it. The final 10 minutes of baking is done. All that's left is to put some of these toasted pecans on the top. Now the recipe calls for 1/4 cup, but well, that's just not enough. All right, you can spread these all over the top. I kind of tend to put them around the outside edge. Just make them a little more decorative. Oh, I can't wait for this pie to cool. I haven't had one of these in quite a long time. All right, there we go. The finished product. Doesn't that look absolutely delicious? All right, there's your second recipe for pumpkin pie with a twist. Once this pie cools down a bit, and you can serve it warm or you can chill it totally and serve it cold. But once this pie cools down, I'm going to cut into it. I'm going to show you the pumpkin pie in the pumpkin pie shell, and we'll take a look at the finished products. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Well, here you have the final products, the 2 pumpkin pies with a twist. The first one we did was baked right in the pumpkin shell. We're topping that with a little whipped topping. When you eat these, you want to scrape out some of that cooked pumpkin off the edge. Oh, look at that. Doesn't that look just delicious? And our pumpkin pie with a twist with the sour cream topping. This one's my favorite. Take a look at that. This one is my snack. Well, I hope you learned a little something from this pumpkin video. Go to the farmer's market. See if you can find a pumpkin, sugar pumpkin, and try these recipes.